Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Big Chris Live. We're streaming live right now via YouTube and via Twitter. Thanks to DeanBlundell.com for hosting. Since I've had a little run-in with Facebook right now, I'm waiting to get out of Facebook jail before we can resume the, as per usual, Facebook live stream. That's a story for another time. You can scroll back in previous episodes to hear that drama. We've got bigger fish to fry this afternoon, TGIF, and my guest. I already teased it on Twitter and made the reveal earlier this morning, but Paul Langlois from the Tragically Hip is on the screen with us on via Zoom. Paul, how are you?
I'm doing well, Chris. Nice to see you again.
Excellent to see you. It's been a long time, man. It's always good to reconnect with Kingston friends and connections, and I'm always homesick for that city, as you know.
Well, you're missed around here for sure. We definitely noticed a bit of a hole here.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah.
We're doing well.
Yeah, we're doing well. You know, actually, the biggest news is we're in the third trimester. We're expecting April 11th, and I'm a first-time dad at 40 years old, which is pretty wild, man. Woo!
Well, it's I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. I got a couple of girls. They're both in their 20s now, but I really it's the best thing I was ever part of.
Yeah, and you know, I find I'm juggling a lot of things, obviously, with the radio show and the podcast. And if there was stand-up comedy, I'd be doing that. But, you know, I keep it pretty busy. But now I've got this baby thing to throw into the mix. But I can only imagine what it must have been like for you, being a first-time dad or a father to multiple children through touring and recording and, like, all that insanity. What was that like? How did you juggle all that?
Well, I mean, it was tough at times. We were lucky that we kind of stayed on the same page our whole career, really, and we stayed friends. And you know, some of the more complicated things in a band that's going to keep all the same members and everything is you got to be on the same page as far as when you want to play, when you got to get home. People started having kids. And it was very difficult, you know. Gord Sinclair had his oldest, the first band kid, and we left like 2 days later down to Memphis to record up to here, and you know, we were down there 6 weeks, and it's just like we all felt for him. It was very difficult because he had a baby at home, and you know, gradually, so he kind of got the short end there, but then, you know, we managed to, after recording that record, he got a few months at home, but we toured a lot. But as the kids came, we just made sure that whoever was having the child or you know, got some time, and we kind of built it in. But it was tough, you know. It was tough as they got to be a little more aware that we were leaving and coming back so often. You know, sometimes you're leaving and your 7-year-old's just like, why are you going? You know, it's just like hits you hard. But then, you know, you come back and we're not busy. You know, we were never busy when we got back, so I could just be full-time days, or hopefully a couple 3 weeks of just being a full-time dad. So it's yeah, but it's complicated, like anyone who goes on the road.
Yeah, you know, I remember, too, always thinking of you guys as great parents, too, just seeing you in and around Kingston, you know, through the years. Whether I saw, you know, Rob at the movie theater, or at the lineup at Tim Hortons with his kids, or, you know, you and your wife and all the charity work that she does within the city as well, you know. You guys always seem to be very there for your kids. So I was wondering how you did it. But I guess good planning on the business end of things makes for good family life.
Yeah, we just sort of, you know, get the due date and hope. I mean, I missed the birth of our oldest, Emma. We were opening for Page and Plant in the States for 2 months, and I chose, well, maybe she's going to come early, so I was able to we were going to take 6 weeks off. So I was like, okay, how about 2 weeks before the due date and 4 weeks after, you know, and then I'll have fun with the baby.
Right.
And she came 6 weeks early. So we were in Nebraska when I got, you know, back then it was a pager. There was no cell phone. No one has cell phone. So it was actually the first date we canceled. We couldn't do the Ames, Iowa gig with Page and Plant. I flew home and then flew back, picked up a week later. But yeah, it's we got a lot of great band kids, and it's a really nice big family, everyone, they're kind of like cousins, all the band
I
kids,
bet.
and yeah. And so that's been a great just bonus for all of us.
Yeah, yeah. I know that Rob's kids. Boris is taking up the axe and taking up the musical heritage. None of your kids ever drifted towards that, or?
Um, no, but they both play. They both play guitar.
Yeah.
Kind of despite my efforts. I think I think I was trying to get them to play when they were a bit too young. But sure enough, sort of through their teens, in their bedrooms, they learned how to play, and so they can both sing and play. And but they're no ambitions in music. Just it's a friend for life, and a nice hobby, and sit around, play guitar around a campfire or whatever. They both do that.
Oh, that's
As my wife. So yeah, it's so that's nice. But a lot of great musicians in the band. Gord Sinclair, all boys are fantastic musicians, and Boris, obviously, Robbie's Boris is in Cassador.
Yeah.
And they do well. And the COVID thing kind of screwed things up for them, like a lot of young bands.
So many, so many different, so many different bands have just been affected, big and small, and especially I think people or bands who have momentum. When they just feel like, okay, things are starting to happen for us, right? And there's nothing worse than having momentum stopped. There's one thing to be grinding, and there's one thing to be at the top, but that middle phase where you got momentum, right? Like, that's a burn.
Yeah, that's I really feel for that, because momentum is so hard to create.
Yeah.
In music, and there were bands, Cassador, one of them, where they were halfway through, or even just only at the beginning of a very exciting tour, and here we go, and
yeah,
and all of a sudden it's like, what? Oh, this is serious. It's like basically when the NBA canceled their season. A lot of people,
that was the big thing, right? The big sign when that guy touched all those microphones, and everyone was like, "What the fuck?"
That seemed to be, and it's hard to believe it's going to be a year.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. But I feel bad for that, and feel bad for, like, my kids are in the university. Like, I think I feel worse for the younger people. Obviously now for elderly and vulnerable people in this long-term care home kind of fiasco is feel bad for everybody. I feel blessed and lucky because I sort of pretty much retired, and so I'd be just chipping away anyway. But the kids, they're not getting to go to their school, or it's just I feel worse for the young people.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's just had such a rough go of it, and I can remember during, everyone. I've heard some people starting to refer to it as, back in the pandemic. I'm like, no, we're still in the pandemic, by the way. But I think they mean back in the first lockdown. Back when we were first grappling with it, back March, April, May of last year. I remember one of the moments. There was a lot of different great patriotic things that happened, but then all of a sudden I see you on your front porch playing Bob Cajun, and man, that was something else. That was great. Thank you for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was another accident. I was just trying to help a couple guys out that were trying to start a movement to go sing Courage on the Porch, just to pick everyone up. Because, back then, you're right. It's kind of like two pandemics, because, in March, April, May, then all of a sudden summer came and it kind of loosened up a bit, just like, oh, okay. This is going to be good. And then sure enough, as experts were predicting, this is going to come around again.
Who knew the experts would be so right?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, and I did the porch thing, for a few weeks. I was doing it on Thursday and Wednesday. One night I'd just be like, why did I ever start doing this? And I didn't know what to play. And fortunately, I turned to my wife and kids right before I was going out there and said, "Are you coming?" And they were like, "What?"
Family affair.
Yeah, let's have a sing along. Anyway, so they were good sports about it. They sucked it up, and I'm glad I did that.
Yeah, I remember when I when I was living in Kingston. I've lived there on and off for years, but the last stretch when I was living there and I was doing the morning show at K-Rock, I remember you released Not Guilty, and you dropped that solo album. And that always reminds me of my time there because I was so into the local scene when I got back. I can remember Ian Spotting. I remember Chris Coster. He had a solo stuff out then. I remember catching the Glorious Sons when they were just playing at the Merchant Tap House, a little pub, to Not a Full House, if you can believe that now. And anyways, I listened to Not Guilty recently. That album still stands up, man. I got to say, that was a great record, man. Enjoyed it.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's been a while, but it was enjoyable for me, just to have a band and their friends, and just to, it was for the record before that. The record before that I did just on my own, and it was kind of solitary experience, but it was a monkey off my back. I just kind of, Gord had done a couple solo records, Gord Downey, and I just thought, well, I got a bunch of unfinished songs. I should really do this, and I'm glad I did. And then with Not Guilty, I was like, okay, this is going to be way more fun if I have a band. And so we had a great time doing it, and we actually even managed to do about 30-night tour.
I remember. And was Greg Ball in the band, or was he opening for that tour?
Greg and his band were opening.
Right.
Yeah. They were just in heaven. I just wasn't going to get back into a van, so I got a tour bus.
Nice.
Which financially isn't the best idea in the world, but I was just like, no way I'm going across the country in a van. I've done it too many times and getting too old. So anyway, Greg and his band, they just had the time of their lives, and they had a record to promote as well. So they were my favorite guys on the bus. No offense to Robbie, because Robbie Baker came and did me the huge favor of being on the tour, and he was great. But
right.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I still hang out with Greg and guys in his band, and they just talk about that tour like it's just like one of their most favorite times ever.
You do so much to support the local scene, though, Paul, and that was my second question. One, that album was great and a great example of that local collaboration. But number two, topic of the scene in Kingston, who was the last or the latest Kingston musician that you've worked with?
I guess that would be Greg. Greg did a record a couple of years ago. I've kind of slowed down in that area. I mean, I was kind of producing. Because we have a studio, the Bathhouse, just
of course, yeah.
Kingston, the opportunity, excuse me, is there. I haven't really, besides helping a friend or two out that want to record a song for their daughter's birthday or whatever, there's a little of that here and there.
Yeah.
But officially, Greg and his band would have been the last local act that I produced. And the last time I was in there, it was just me, and I was trying to break the ice and start writing again. I just had a non-period of time after Gord died for really a couple of years, and then I started thinking, well, you should write something. And anyway, so I did go out, and it actually went better than I thought. So I got 3 or 4 so far, and I'm just gonna, without any schedule, just going to chip away at it. By the way, Robbie has a record with Strippers Union coming out. So
Yes.
I don't know, next week or the week after, not sure, but I've seen it, teased on Twitter, and so excited for him. And I'll just, I'd guess maybe a couple years away though.
Yeah. You're going to just take a slow burn on it, right? That's a great suggestion, by the way. I think I'll hit Rob up and maybe see if he wants to come and promote his new album on the podcast. We'll see. We'll see.
I'm surprised. I've heard the record's really good, and they worked hard to get there. So he's always a great interview.
It's been you mentioned Gord, and I know that's a sensitive and a sad subject, and tragic in so many ways. But they say that time lends new perspective to things. It's been a number of years now. Do you have a new perspective, or is that just being able to head back into the studio? Is that your new perspective?
I mean, the pain recedes very gradually. Like, I had no experience with grief. I'm lucky that way. The folks are alive, in-laws. I'm just lucky. Um, so with Gord, it was crushing for all of us around him, and but the pain does recede a bit, and or a lot, and you can get a little kind of philosophical about it. I still feel like you got ripped off. I mean, anyone that dies that young,
Yeah.
they're getting ripped off. But people die a lot younger and get ripped off a lot worse. It's just with the 4 kids, that's the biggest part of it. And also, he had a lot more to do. I mean, he was, if any of us talked about playing in a band in our 70s, it was him. Like, he just had that romantic vision that we're just going to keep. And we would have stayed together. We would have, for sure. I mean, we're still together, but we're retired from playing. We still do little things, and we talk Zoom calls or whatever and figure things out. But definitely really miss him. I think the whole band was in a daze for a couple of years though after.
Yeah.
And now it's been 3, a little over 3. And I think we're allowed, Gord Sinclair put a solo record right around the COVID.
I remember he was actually touring down the road here in Richmond Hill, and I was going to go see his gig, and then he had to pull the plug on it. That was unfortunate.
Yeah. Really good record. And so I think people are kind of feeling like doing things again. And even as a band, we're fairly motivated to find stuff that we know we recorded. It's just so many albums and so much time in the studio. Tried to catalog everything, but that's kind of the engineers and the producers that would do that. And anyway, so we're with Johnny Fay leading the way, because he just thinks that way, and he's also in Toronto, so he can find various storage units, old tapes, and so we're just chipping away at getting organized with and finding stuff that people haven't heard, and but that we actually recorded in a real studio.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's a nice little project.
I mean, you have still so much legacy and everything, and I think this is the reason I reached out to you, Paul, is because just a few days ago, you had it on your Twitter account that you were uncheckmarked by Twitter. And I said, I got to get Paul on the podcast to talk about this. And then I realized it wasn't just you, it was Rob Baker, and the band itself, the Tragically Hip, lost its status, or it was demoted in a way by Twitter to being unofficially the Tragically Hip. I was incensed. I was outraged. I mean, it was more than I could handle, but I see that it's been restored. Did they offer an explanation?
No, I mean, I was actually going to tweet something like, who are these Twitter people? Do they walk among us? Where can we find them? So no, and I was like, well, okay. Told the management about it, and they were like, oh, we'll look into it. They looked into it, no answers. And then just, it only lasted 3 or 4 days, and it was in the evening that the check mark came back. A buddy of mine texted me. He's like, "Hey, your check mark's back." And so
nice.
I think they were kind of rejigging was the best
I see.
guess from what people were hearing. They were kind of rejigging things on Twitter, and Gord Sinclair and I and the Hip got caught in the temporary loss of their check marks. I was glad that the Hip lost theirs too, because if it was just little old me, I don't think I would have gotten it back. But I was able to hitch myself to that big boat.
Yeah, by association, right?
Yeah.
The Order of Canada medal. Where do you keep it? By the way, I'm wondering, where do you hang such a thing?
It's not hanging, actually. I'm just looking over. It's in a drawer in the kitchen.
Oh, good. Next to the cutlery, or?
No, just, it's, I don't know why it ended up there, and I don't know why I never hung it up. I should think about that. But now with Julie Payette, she gave it to us. There's
she was the one that awarded it to you. Of course, that would be the right timeline. I forgot how long she'd been there.
Yeah. We had got a Governor General's Award years before that, and our governor general at the time was Michelle Jean,
Mm-hmm.
and she was great. She was really just, you could just tell, great with people, great, just made everyone feel, you really like getting attention from her, even if it's like 30 seconds. And Julie wasn't so much, but she was good. Like, there's nothing we noticed.
Yeah, she she didn't call
Yeah.
you names. She didn't slap you. She
No,
didn't
she
do
like
it.
came, there's a dinner involved, so she came around to all the tables. Seemed quite pleasant, actually.
Oh, that's good.
Uh, Best behavior, I guess.
I suppose,
So,
right?
but that's a good reminder. I should get that old medal out at some point.
I think so. Yeah, I would hang that up anywhere, really, especially where
Yeah.
where my friends and family could see it. But again, how many things do you have to hang around the house? Like, how many gold records? How many platinum records? How many memorabilia do you have? Like, there must be. Do you have a room?
No, don't have a room. I mean, I have a little studio here, but not really. We moved about 3 years ago, and I had a studio there with stuff hanging, the gold records, gifts, but here it's more of a cellar. I still have the gear down there, but yeah. So, and I really kind of vote against making it too public, but there's a few things hanging in the living room, a few, Junos and that kind of thing. Special pictures, especially from the last tour, a couple of really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have Gord, 2 pictures of Gord and I over there ever since he left us.
Yeah. Man.
So yeah, this and that. And then, other stuff goes to storage. There's Bath, everyone's got stuff out there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really just lucky that with all this stuff, but then you sort of get into a headspace where, try not to look backwards and that kind of thing. Like, the number of hockey jerseys I have is insane. But my daughters take them little by little. I know they do.
Oh, really? Yeah. As long as they're not selling it on eBay, are they?
No, just grabbing it.
Oh, that's good. That's cute, though. That's nice. I've got something to admit. We're going to wrap things up in a few here, Paul. This is my last sort of subject, if you will. But I've been keeping a secret from, and maybe it was obvious all these years, but I'm the biggest Hip fan, dude. I really am. All those times in Kingston, that, side stage, backstage, charity dinners, whatever. You guys were there, one or all of you or whatever. I just played it cool the whole time. I'm a big fan, and let me demonstrate. Actually, I got to pull this out of the plastic. This is the blue record, Tragically Hip, self-titled. Look at that guy. Oh, there he is right there. Look at that guy. Look at him.
Looks very, very angry, he looks.
Yes, that's a surly look on there.
I didn't know how to play it.
But I got this at Brian's record option in Kingston, and I saw this in mint condition, and I had to have it, and that's one of my rarities. If you look behind me here, this is a poster.
Oh, yeah.
The Fillmore, 2002. And also, I've got a ton of other stuff, but this is just the stuff that was handy today. This is a single on vinyl, and it's Blow It High Dough, but it's promotional only, not for sale.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that? I don't know. Is that like a radio station issue or?
Yeah, I think it was the only time we ever did it. I think it was to kind of like tease it or something.
Okay.
Before releasing it.
Interesting. Well,
I do remember.
Not for sale. I got it at Brian's record option, so it had eventually ended up for sale.
Great spot, Brian's. No, I mean, you've always been, it's always struck me and us that you're a fan because you always said nice things and all that kind of stuff. But no, you played it pretty cool as well.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah. So I remember I had all this stuff and I was like, I'm eventually gonna come out and tell them, and I'm gonna have to say like, hey, can you sign all this stuff for me? But then by the time I was on my way out of Kingston, I was packing my bags. That was the final tour. And I was like, I'm not going to hit them up in this whole moment and ask them for autographs. So I let it lie. I knew how to read the room. But just so you know, man, next time I see you, I might hit you up for an autograph.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think you made the right call.
Yeah.
You made the call there, because it wasn't the same vibe as other tours.
For sure. Yeah,
that
was.
Anytime. Next time we see each other.
Yeah, man. There's so many things to look forward to post-pandemic, and that will certainly be one of them for me, man. And I was so glad that my last summer in Kingston was that final tour, and I got to wrap up as I moved up here to the GTA. That was the last thing I did, was see your final show there. So it was a very emotional, obviously, for all the obvious reasons, but then tying that into my own leaving the city, it felt like there was a second departure there for myself. So thanks for being the soundtrack to my teenage years, Paul, and of course being such a great, upstanding member of the Kingston community. And it was great, getting to know you guys and hang out and just be part of the scene for as long as I did. And thanks for being on the podcast. You're welcome back anytime, by the way. But I'm glad you're checkmarked on Twitter again. That's great news.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on, and good luck with that baby.
Oh, thanks, man. Yes, April 11th. Here we go. It's coming.
Yeah, good luck with that. And I'm sure we'll talk to you, and I'll come back on when